Hey everyone, welcome to the Full-Time Hustle. My name is Mariah Zumbas, and I'm very excited tonight. I'm here with some of my very, very good friends, Kate Clarke, Ariana Nicole George, and Jonathan Ha, who are very lovely, talented, hardworking actors, as well as workers in day jobs in industry. And we're here to talk to you today about balancing both. How does that work? So we're going to go around, introduce ourselves. Hope everyone's having a great evening. So my name is Mariah Zumbas. I am an actor and producer. I produce with the Help Network. Shout out to us. Um, I'm an associate producer. I work across the Entertainment Academy we have for classes, as well as voiceover production for video games and other types of projects. And I started in VFX, technically in development. I worked in an internship in college where I was behind the scenes while I was getting my theater degree. And I was like, this is kind of cool working behind the scenes. And I know I need money when I graduate. So I was like, so this seems like a good way to like still be involved and housed at the same time. What a world. And so I used that. I graduated in 2020. So yeah, went to VFX production. We'll go into the depths of that as we go on. And yeah, landed in voiceover production. So yeah, it's a good balance of industry stuff. How about you, Ariana?
Oh, cool. Hi. Hi, everyone. My name's Ariana Nicole George. You can just call me Ariana. You don't have to use the full government name if you don't want. Um, but I I am actually a Los Angeles native, born and raised. Um, and I went to school in Emerson College. I graduated in 2021. I'm a multi-hyphenate and also a voice actor primarily, but I do a whole ton of things. Living out in LA and along with doing voiceover, I also work for a casting company out in Boston. I work remote, so we're going to talk about that a little bit later. And I also do a couple other things. I perform for kids' birthday parties. I like the actor hustle. Any little job I can get, I do. Um, and yeah, I mostly work for animation, video games, ADR, some commercial here and there. I really love what I do, and I love the folks that help. So I'm super excited to be here and answer your questions. I hope I didn't forget anything.
Woohoo.
Yeah. All right, Kate, it's on to you.
Hello. Hopefully you cannot hear my neighbor's unmuffled car outside as I'm talking. He, of course,
Oh,
is up right now. But hello, hello. Isn't that just the age-old voice actor problem of outside noise? Um, but hi, my name is Kate Clarke. I am you guessed it, a voice actor. And beyond voice acting, similar to Ariana, I try to kind of create a lot of opportunities and wear a bunch of different hats. Prior to getting into voice acting, I worked in an elementary school. So a lot of my other jobs revolve around children's education and all the wacky, fun things that can come with that and all the different opportunities you can make with that. Talk more on that later. One of my main things is Dungeons and Dragons for children side hustle that I do. So that's a lot of fun. And yeah, I got started in voice acting. I kind of dabbled here and there. In college, I studied music and I did opera singing, but after that, went into teaching, kind of trying to find the survival job because I came out here to Los Angeles for school and I desperately wanted to stay in the city. So it was like, okay, what do I do? So I taught fourth grade for a couple of years, and around the pandemic, that was kind of when I thought, I'll build a booth in my house. Maybe I'll try to actually pursue this. And the rest is history. I'm looking at this little list. Favorite announced roles. Did anybody talk about this?
No,
No.
see, I knew I forgot something.
I will skip it too in solidarity.
Oh, we'll go
Uh,
around later.
and yeah, I would say that voice acting was definitely something that I kind of picked up along the way. Again, with teaching, and I'll talk probably a lot about teaching is very performative in and of itself. So you're constantly vying for the attention of a group of 9-year-olds, and sometimes silly voices are the things that bring them in.
I know.
So yeah.
I love it. I love it. How about you, Jonathan?
How about me? That is a
Yeah,
good
Abba.
question. Hi guys, my name is Jonathan Ha, and I am also a multi-hyphenate like all of these incredible people here. So I graduated uh, last year in 2023, so I am the bebe of this group.
Still
Um,
wild to me. I'm always
and
like,
uh, yeah, I've kind of been all over the place too. I grew up in music, then studied film production in undergrad, and hopped all over the place. I thought I wanted to be an editor, so I worked in the K-pop industry for a little bit as a video editor, and then I always forget, but I worked at a talent management company for a little bit, my last year of college, and then had all of these other little odd jobs before fully transitioning into voiceover, where I have been working professionally since February of this year, and since then I have been very lucky to have amazing opportunities. And if we do a little round robin of little roles that we've done later, then we'll get to that. But as of now, I am a assistant to a former casting director and a instructor for kids voiceover, and I am also a math tutor, every actor's favorite subject. Uh, so
you were the
yeah,
beacon. You were the beacon.
exactly,
Oh,
exactly, exactly.
then I'm coming
Uh,
to you.
but yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for oh, I'm so excited. You guys are the best. And this is like a great way to start because we all do so many different things. And so one can only imagine the type of schedule that we run. And so I'm curious to get your guys's like how you're managing all of these things when there's only 24 hours in a day, 8 hours in a work day. Because I know for me, I'm 9 to 5, but I will like, and I'm a night owl, thankfully. So that's usually when I do my auditions, and hopefully like it's not too loud so I can like screamy stuff I'll try to save for the morning so I don't wake my roommates up. But like
Yep.
I'll do that, and then like I'm sure when you guys have classes, like it's usually like 6 to 10, and then 10 to 12, or try to wake up by like 6 to warm up and get that done. And it's always ever changing because for me personally, because it's you never know when you're gonna
Yep.
get stuff. And so I'm curious, especially when you're running a lot of freelance gigs, what is that? What's that like for you? Whoever wants to start.
Um, sure, I'll jump right in.
Yeah.
I would say having a dedicated space to keep your calendar is probably number one most important thing in the world. I feel like any moment I have an hour or a day, even if I don't have the hours, but I know something might happen on that day, I'm marking it down and just like trying to plan out my schedules, maybe even like a month in advance, depending on what my gig situation is. Currently, the situation is I'm doing Kids Dungeons and Dragons. I'm on a musical theater contract in a show in Glendale. And I'm trying to think. I think that's the only two things that I've been majorly juggling right now. The theater has been taking up the majority of the time. And then there's the voice acting things.
Mhm.
I feel like for my clients that are children based, it's really easy to kind of, okay, I know kids are at school until 3 o'clock. So I'm going to know that my evenings are probably going to be more reserved for the kids stuff, or my weekend days are going to be more reserved for the kids stuff. So that allows me to have my like week mornings. If I didn't have rehearsal, I can kind of rope those off for auditioning, for taking any workshops that usually you have to take the East Coast ones because they're a couple hours ahead. And yeah, just trying to keep as organized as I can, and also follow the patterns of kind of where my jobs usually lead to.
Yeah.
Helps me maintain my schedule in a good way.
Yeah, that's really, and we love color coding, so that's always great, like a month in advance.
Ooh,
I use emojis.
Oh, that's so cute. Oh, I love that. That's it makes it fun. See, we have fun here, guys.
Yeah, listen, it's like you have to at least, if I don't know, scheduling is difficult, so you
Yeah,
got to make it fun for yourself too.
yeah, yeah. Do you guys use emojis, Jonathan and Ariana? Like, how do you keep on schedule? Because like, I struggle with sleep, and so and I feel
Me
like that's a big
too.
part of this.
Yeah, I mean, like I've been like a big Notion user since like high school, so I love Notion. I
I don't
haven't
even know what that is.
It's like a digital content planner sort of,
Gotcha.
so you can like make it look all pretty, so that's why I like it because I
Mm.
love the idea of bullet journaling, but I'm afraid to commit to putting ink on a page. So being a digital, it's great because then I'm like, oh, if I make a mistake, then I can, just fix it and it still looks really nice.
Yeah.
Um, but I also use my calendar app, like religiously, and yeah, if it doesn't look pretty, then I'm sad.
Yeah.
So it has to,
Artist.
yeah, yeah, literally.
That's
Um,
the most Ariana statement I've ever heard in my life.
I know, right?
It's not pretty, it's I'm sad.
she
I'm
says
sad.
the full beat. Literally, this is a good point because
Yep.
Mariah, you were asking, how do you manage like that schedule? And for me, like my day looks different and my week looks different every week. Like it's a lot about like the flexibility, and I mean like tonight I have a show. So that's why I'm in like this full crazy makeup because after this I'm literally going to perform in a show.
Mhm.
And that isn't always how it is, but some weeks look like that because like Kate, I also have a musical theater background and like that's what I studied in college. And so my expertise comes through there, but performance related jobs are not usually regular. I mean, my week to week, the most regular thing I have is my what used to be a 9 to 5 like Mariah, which was 40 hours a week. Now I work around 15 hours a week, and it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I work 9 to 2. So I know those regular hours, and then I have Tuesday, Thursday off, and throughout that time I'm kind of able to like schedule sessions, but you know, how do you get this all in, right? Also making time for friends, making time for yourself, taking classes, like it's hard. So I think it's just about, week to week, and like to be upfront, like I'm an ADHD girly, so like it's sometimes really tough to like manage these schedules, but it's just about like making sure that you have time for yourself and trying not to like sit in your like I want to rot because like, a lot of times you do when you have ADHD. But it's just about like surrounding yourself with people who can like support you and like also help lift you up. I think is really important, and getting things done as soon as you can before sitting down.
Oh yeah.
Once you're
Oh
down,
yeah.
Yep.
you're down.
Hmm.
So
It's
yeah.
it's funny because I remember I was thinking about this recently because I don't think I mentioned this at the beginning because I in theater school I was at USC for acting, and when we would do um shows during the day, like a two-show day, like at least I had a nap. Like the days were pretty much 18 hours with like GEs and stuff, but I've noticed recently I'm like I've stopped taking naps. I don't really have that downtime anymore unless it's that like revenge procrastination time at
Oh
night
my
where
God, revenge
I'm
sleep procrastination. I talk
yeah,
about that all the time.
the time. I know, and I'm like with like my not sponsored with my ACOTAR fourth reading book
Oh
in the corner, just
my
like I need to read like 3 chapters before 2 a.m.
gosh.
And
Occupy
it's like
Avatar.
I know it's a lot of like what you did today, like with prep, like okay, I got to figure out with like the makeup and prepping before I have my show. Make sure you eat dinner. That's
Mm,
always hard. And
yes.
like yesterday we were hanging out and Jonathan had we were talking. Jonathan had a tutoring session after, so it's like figuring out commute time, especially when it's far. And yeah, how have you managed the time management aspect of it, Jonathan? Like your schedule?
Uh yeah, so before that, in terms of like what my day usually looks like, it's so I try and get all of my for my assistant job, I try and get all of that done first thing in the morning. And then uh any sessions that I have, I also have in the morning or like maybe the early afternoon. And uh pro tip, communicate that with your agents if that applies to you, because if you tell your agents, hey, these are the hours that I'm always going to be available, and then if you absolutely need me or like the client absolutely needs me at a different time outside of those hours, then please let me know, and then I can work with my day job people to help figure that out. Um,
Great
so yeah,
point.
my sessions are almost always in the morning and early afternoon. And then my tutoring stuff is always in the afternoon because that's after school hours, kind of similar to Kate. And then auditions and anything else is in the evening. As for how I go about doing that, I am a person that prides myself in my time management skills. So Uh,
He's
I
wonderful at it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Best of us.
So I'm old school. I'm like a pencil and paper
Yeah.
agenda planner guy. And I also use that as like a surrogate memory bank for like when I just have an idea or like something that needs to be put down on paper and I don't have any time to like actually sit down on it. I just like chicken scratch it on it so I can reference it later. But then I also use like Ariana, I use a digital calendar to make sure that I have um like a visual representation of all of those things. But I do like the pencil and paper because I don't know about you guys, but I get this like mini dopamine rush from like basically crossing something out.
100%.
Uh,
Yep.
yeah, so that just helps me keep everything in check.
Yeah.
And I think that, I don't know, whether it's through pencil and paper or Notion or a calendar app, like having something where you record everything there is it's critical in my opinion. Even if you're not like a crazy time management person, like not relying on just your memory, I think is super, super important
Yeah.
because you
Yep.
need that stuff somewhere because you're gonna forget it eventually.
Yeah. And one thing I want to say on that, because I work, part of what helps me is I have an accountability group I'm a part of as well with actors. It's the
Cool.
Spark with Amy McNabb, and that's been wonderful. And what part of how we'll schedule the days is like main adventure and side quests, but like themed. So it's like here's your health side quest, here's your um
Ooh.
like relationship, friendship side quest. Here's there's another one, career. I was like, what was the other one? And so that
Yeah.
always helps as like a broad like scope for me too of just having like yes it's like the list of all the things but like what are the things that are really stressing me out and then turn them into like goalposts.
Mm.
And there's also this cool app that my coworker showed me called Finch where it's like a
Yeah.
Tamagotchi.
Wait,
Yes.
add me on Finch sometime. I have it too.
I'll add you. I'll add you. It basically okay, okay. I hope you guys know about this. So it's like a Tamagotchi app. We're just plugging things, but it's like
Oh, yeah,
this
no,
tell
We're
me
not sponsored.
not
we're not
sponsored.
But
sponsored,
if
but
they want to sponsor us,
you should pay us. But basically, it's like a Tamagotchi, kind of like Duolingo, where you can grow up your Finch like self-care tasks. And it's great. It makes it fun. And I feel like if it's not pretty, I don't want it, like Ariana said. So it's things like that just make it fun. Or like they sell specialized post-it notes of today's top three that I had a while ago. It's
Ooh.
nice to post in like the top of like side of the computer of like love to get this audition done, would love to get a warm up in for the day of because that's one thing I forget is like if I don't warm up every day. What'd you say, Ariana?
No, I'm just talking to myself.
I love it.
I just had
Yeah.
Finch pulled up, that's all.
Oh my God, I can't wait to add you. My Finch is named Squoop.
I
She,
was like, this is what it looks like.
yeah, that's the other thing. It's like
Oh,
literally like
interesting.
Duolingo, but for self-care. It's awesome. But what was I saying about warming up of like keeping the like the craft going with the business. That's always
Hmm.
like a balance. And I'm curious, I'm gonna jump around. I don't have like a list running here. What
Yeah.
having the job you have now, how is it important to your voice acting? How
I,
does it vary it? How does it, yeah.
yeah, I think for me, because my day job, I work for a casting company. So I know I saw some folks that were like, shout out Boston. I don't know if we have any Boston folks here. But I work for a casting company called Boston Casting. And they're based out of Boston. And Boston, Boston, Boston. And I know, crazy. Um, but yeah, so I work out of there and I'm a casting assistant, I'm their school assistant, and I also run their social media. And all of those things are like slot so perfectly into like helping me be an actor, a better actor, and just like a a better person, I guess. But with the casting side, I get kind of like a backdoor look of like what do my bosses like when clients when talent submit self tapes, right? I can kind of understand like, oh, that like casting director and like talent relationship, what that looks like from the other side. And I also work with actors from that end too, because I send out breakdowns, I upload self tapes, like that's part of my job. And like for the social media, it helps me run my own social media better as an actor. And
Mhm.
then for the school, like I send out the registration emails and I coordinate with students, and it teaches me how to write really good emails and
Mhm.
send like great pitches and things like that. So every single bit of it is super duper helpful to like what I do as an actor. And so I'm super grateful.
Yeah, and it's when you said about pitches too, like that that enhances your confidence when working with clients as an actor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think once I also learned working for a casting office that like the pressure was so off of being like, oh, the casting directors aren't the ones that make the final decisions.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
wait, that's crazy. Like, I didn't know that before working at a casting office. I thought that's what it was. And once I started working there, it took off that pressure. And it also allowed me to see when actors would communicate with me as a casting assistant, like, it allowed me to be like, oh, I really liked the way that this email was and how this made me feel coming from an actor. Like, I'm going to keep that in mind for when I send my own pitch emails off. So it's really, really nice.
Yeah, that's super helpful. I know that, and I feel the same way, like from the production. Sometimes I'll help with
Yeah.
casting, but like seeing, like I get to work with the people that I'll be taking classes with. It's fun. I'll go into a class sometimes. I'm like, oh hey,
Yeah.
or to the, and it's very nice to kind of split the brain with that and also just have it feel like I think the biggest shift for me has been changing from like needing to please the people that are in charge of these things to like, oh, they're my associates.
Absolutely.
Well, we all work
Hmm.
together.
Oh
And
yeah.
there is one back when Clubhouse was a thing. I remember there was somebody on there that was like, you're the CEO and everyone is like, and not that you're like the boss of everyone, but it's like you're the CEO of your own acting business, so you're
Yeah.
talking to all the other CEOs. You're not this underling kind of thing. It's
Mm. That's
so
a good way to think about it.
It's like business to
I like that.
business, not business to consumer. It's like business to
yeah.
business.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that I resonate with that greatly. And
Yes, I know
so
you do. Mariah and I always talk about how our jobs are so similar.
and we're also Greek, so we're just like
Yeah.
season. It's really nice.
Oh, manulamu. Oh, tup, tup, tup.
Kuklamo. Saga po. But we got what was I gonna say? And one thing I want to branch out about too is like when you're working with that and splitting your brain with production and or any day job and acting. Um, Jonathan, how have you like managed like with your warm-ups and with taking care of your instrument while doing all these other tasks? Same for you, Kate.
Go
Oh,
ahead, John.
I'm so sorry. Could you repeat that question one
no
more time,
problem.
please?
No problem. So it's about like for hours spent on doing voice related activities, but like I
Yeah.
want to rephrase that is to like how do you take care of your instrument amidst all of these things? And also, Ariana, you got some
Mm,
tips for that too.
The baby.
And so we'll go around. We'll
mm.
start
Guys
with you,
go first.
Jonathan.
Yeah, you guys go.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, first of all, like hydrate or dihydrate 24/7. And I have a very sensitive throat when it comes to temperature.
Oh.
So, I mean, this this happened yesterday when we were hanging out. I always order hot water, or I always lug this thing around which has hot water in it.
Mhm.
So that always keeps my throat soothed, and whenever I'm doing something vocally stressful, I just look for the closest water boiler, essentially.
Mhm.
But then sometimes it also sometimes not warming up with like vocal exercises or having hot water next to me to like loosen up my vocal cords. Sometimes not warming up is honestly the better way to go. Like I had what is it? I was the lead in a live action in a K drama earlier this year, and because of my work schedule, I had to schedule it all in the early mornings, and so it was 7:30 a.m. sessions, and like I would wake up at 5:45 and just get to the studio and start recording. And thankfully, the character was a bit lower in my register, so like me having that morning voice where I sound like a frog actually worked out in my favor.
Your Tom
Um,
Waits voice in the morning.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, but yeah, thankfully my jobs don't require me to talk too much. Like, yeah, I'm talking to kids when I'm tutoring them, but like my assistant job, it's pretty much all remote, and I'm doing it over emails and stuff like that. So thankfully, I do get some off time, nothing too vocally stressful when I'm not acting. But Kate and Ariana especially, I'm sure that they have way more to say about this because Ariana, you're the vocal health queen.
We all have our own stuff, right? But Kate, please go ahead.
This is why I
Yeah.
have to go before you, because I don't have
That's not what I meant.
a huge wisdom to.
I just meant I just napped for like
So
3 minutes about other
here's
stuff.
the thing. The real key is being hydrated. I think that that's like number one, and honestly took me the longest time to figure out because I love soda. I love it so much. And I would be drinking like so many Diet Cokes in a day and just be like, man, why am I so dry all the time? And
Yeah.
that would be it. So getting a really good water regimen. I have a water bottle with a filter in it so I can fill it up anywhere and always have it with me. It's got like a strap. I carry it around like a purse.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love that thing. It's also scratched up though because I took it bouldering, so it's like I gotta get a new
Ooh.
one. Yeah,
That is, I didn't know you bouldered.
I went for my, but like, look, Hal and Sophie have been destroyed. It's a very
Oh,
sad
no.
story. Rest in peace. But yeah, so drinking a lot of water. I would say I often also end up in those morning sessions because a lot of my work takes place in the afternoon or at night, either at the theater or with the kids. And sometimes warming up is as simple as picking some songs that are like sit nicely in my register and singing on the way
Yep.
over to my session.
Oh yeah.
I
Car
think
time's the best
when I
time.
try to like do like the traditional vocalizing, I start to get in my head. And I think a good part of having a good session and feeling successful and feeling like your voice is going to work the way that you want it to is being relaxed. And that's always really difficult when you're going in for a session because who doesn't get nervous and who doesn't want to, do their best. We all care so deeply about the things that we work on. So having a good routine to simultaneously warm up and then like jam out to Sabrina Carpenter, I'm like, it's great.
Oh, twist my arm.
Her songs are so easy to sing and they're a great warm-up song, I will say. If you are a soprano area person.
Yeah, take note, sopranos. Yeah.
I am not a soprano.
But yeah, I would say in addition to that, if I am ever feeling a little like under the weather or feeling run down, one of my new favorite things is making sure that I take zinc. I don't know what it is about zinc. It is an immune like booster. You do need to take food before you eat zinc because it will hurt your stomach otherwise. So I'm telling you this now so you don't come back and be like, I hate
I went to the hospital.
exactly. So do not take it.
Clarke.
Do not take it on an empty stomach. It has worked like the last. So we just opened my show last week, and naturally, 4 members of our cast are showing up in masks. Their voices are hoarse. And that's immediately everybody's like, oh no, like because if anybody's done musical theater that's listening, those cast illnesses pass around like school kid illnesses.
Oh, yeah.
They are crazy. It's just like suddenly everybody's back to being a little petri dish. And so taking zinc, when you see that around you, or when you even start to feel that little tickle, I don't know what it is. It has helped me tremendously. And maybe it's a mind over matter thing that I feel like I'm helping myself. And that is also half the battle too, is having a positive mindset. And again, I think that ties in with the relaxation piece. I also have a vocal mist, which I really
sorry.
So
on my Christmas list this year.
I was like, I thought I had it
charging right now.
I think it's in my car, but for those that don't know what a vocal mist is, you can look it up. It's like a little nebulizer essentially, and they give you little saline packets to put into it, and it's just really good for rehydrating, especially if you've had a long maybe you have a session coming up in a few days, like you should start doing that a couple days before, especially if you're starting to feel run down. Like just get started as early as you can. Entertainer secret. Yes, I remember that. Sorry, I'm seeing the chat. I also really like that stuff. I would say the real entertainer secret for me though lately has been the ninjum
Yeah.
Ninjum
Oh,
peppercorn, yeah.
it's a honey loquat syrup that
got
studios
it.
have now. So most studios, at least, anytime I go in for BZ, like they have a giant bottle of it. And it is the best. It's honey loquat syrup. You put it in like a cup of hot water, or sometimes people just like take it in a spoon. It's amazing. Yeah.
It's similar to throat coat. Someone said asked in the chat, but it's literally like a syrup packet where you can just like you can take it like a shooter. And it's just like this honey loquat syrup that really helps coat the throat. And throat coat tea helps. And one thing I don't know if you ever have opera tea? I used to
Opera
use it for
tea.
I used to use it for my
No.
opera recitals all the time, which is basically like if you
I
don't
missed out on the opera tea.
it was so I
Fun.
learned when I was doing musical theater of maple syrup, 3 parts maple syrup, lemon, cayenne pepper, or any other spice if you're allergic to cayenne, and water, hot water, and then just heating it up and drinking it. That saved when we had a cast illness. Like none of us could speak, but somehow we like transformed after it. We're like, ah! It was
Mm.
great. So that was helpful. But Ariana.
I haven't answered.
Ariana.
Ariana's like the vocal health mafia.
No,
Like, we
I'm
could use
not.
that
Yes.
Maybe a little bit. No, I just for a quick background, like for those who don't know, because I think the three of you all know, I've recovered from a vocal injury twice.
Mhm.
So I'm a really, really big advocate for like vocal health because I am like vocally at the peak of my like form. So and that just goes to show like that you can have things like nodes, which is what I had basically, and still be okay. But this isn't about that, so I won't go too much on my soapbox. But long story short, like what I do is like I warm up every day, especially when I have a session. I do these things called vocal function exercises that I learned the last time I was in voice therapy. I was in voice therapy through a an office in Boston when I was in for the first time, and then most recently when I last had my injury last, I think it was a little over a year ago because it was from COVID actually.
Oh,
Yeah, I got injured again from that, but I'm okay now. I'm great. But I went to USC, Keck School of Medicine, and
yeah.
that was where I did my most recent voice therapy. So they gave me these things called vocal function exercises, which are kind of similar to like SOVT exercises, where you can use like a straw, or you can do like the
Yes.
sort of thing. You know, it's anything
Voice
to
straw.
control. Yeah, I have my own voice
We're gonna
straw.
grab mine. I've got one of
Control your airflow, because I'm a chronic air user, and yeah, like I overuse my
I
air.
need to
How
breathe.
dare you?
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, so I have that. I have my vocal mist. I actually there's like this, handy little shelf here. I have a shelf with all my voice stuff. So I have these like little honey drops from this place called
Ooh.
Holy Honey that I love. Um, and then I
Hey.
have my pastilles.
Oh yeah, those are great.
Um, and
Others.
yeah,
Mm.
Brothers pastilles. In here are my saline packets for my vocal mist.
Hmm.
And then
Ooh.
I saw somebody mention something about mouth sounds. I also get like mouth sounds a lot, and think a lot of people talk about like green apples, anything like sour that will create like mucus production will
Hmm.
help with that because it's usually dry mouth or drinking water. But I also they're kind of expensive, so they save them for like sessions usually. But I have these things they're called Fontus lozenges, and they're green apple lozenges,
Ooh.
and they're really great. And I think yeah, like I said, I warm up every morning. I have a guided warm up from my voice teacher in college that I just turn on when I go to a session. I put it on in the car,
Hmm.
and that's what I do. And she has a vocal healing one, and then like a regular day one. But most days I do the healing one, and it's just really strengthened everything that I have. But I'm very, very like in tune, like over, like to the point of where it's like too much, maybe a little bit. But it's because I was injured, and so I lost a lot of range and I've gained so much of that back that I had even prior to the injury. So it's just about being diligent.
I
Anyway.
love it. And why I bring that up
Yeah.
is because I know like you can get wrapped up in a day job task. I know with myself when like especially when you're drinking tons of coffee and you're like, "Oh shit, I didn't warm up today." It because I with remote jobs, it like yes, it's very very flexible. I highly recommend if you're an actor, try to
Okay.
get remote or hybrid. That's just so it's more flexible. It depends on the in-person job though, but it's easy to forget. So I always want to add some care for your instrument on there. And I wanted to, we have a lot of questions in the Q&A real quick.
Oh.
Dress and anyone wants to chime in, please feel free to. I have a lot of expertise working on LinkedIn and with when I was interviewing. I want to talk about real quick 'cause these are really good questions, I think, to be good to bring up. Somebody asked, for those in 9 to 5 corporate jobs, when it comes to LinkedIn and networking on LinkedIn, hiding the two sides of your professional career, this ties into another one of how do you explain things to people outside of production creative? Um, so with LinkedIn, when I graduated in 2020, they were like, "Good luck. We don't know if there's an industry." And you're like, "Thanks." And I was on the LinkedIn train and I applied and applied. I averaged about 13 applications a day. I was burnt out and like no interviews at the time. And I think on the 149th application, I got my first interview out of school. And for that was with networking, and that came from I did the application, but with the job market now, it's so weird because it's like 700 people applied in the first 2 hours, and you're like, well, there's no use, but there is a use. It's don't pay attention to the numbers, and with networking with that, they always say message the like you can message the recruiter. I always try to go for emails. If you're looking for corporate, they all have an email formula that you can use. If you find one, you can find a lot of them. And figuring out someone that is either like the head of a department or someone above you, it's hard sometimes with someone that's in a parallel job to you that would be the same job. Because I've had people be like, "So you're trying to take my job?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just curious." And so I would say, like, learning about somebody's journey was really helpful. Like, find someone that you get excited about reading about their career journey, and and like and really pick their brain, get to know them as a person, because you don't we were talking about this before of like people want to work with people that are our friends, and that's why I'm having a blast here today, because like you guys are all my friends and it doesn't feel like work, and people want to work with their friends. That's the dream. And so I would say networking, find people that really speak to you that you could learn from and ask questions about. Any live career fairs those are starting to come back, but a big testament I think of my journey, because I've jumped around a lot. I did like VFX or I did development, physical production, VFX production, and a receptionist at some point. And I would say that it was all from reaching out because I interviewed for that job, emailed the director of production, was like, "I'd love to learn more." And that's how I got the interview. And showing gumption and care for the job, very important. As for hiding that you're an actor, I've also encountered interviews where people because I have an acting degree, I can't hide it on my resume, and they'd be like, "So, how does it feel to quit performing?" I've been asked that in my life like 2 or 3 times by grown adults. And I'm like, and I think it's unrealistic in this world. It's unrealistic because we don't have the job model anymore of like, you stay here for 40 years, kid, and then you retire and you have a house. Like, that's not what we're at currently.
If only.
Maybe it'll change, but it's like, it's about marketing yourself, and that's part of emailing with what Ariana was talking about with learning how to craft pitches or working with kids like Kate and Jonathan like that. I'm sorry, I'm talking so much, but basically I've
Oh,
just a lot of
God.
experience with this. And so the I had to form it as like, well, I think it's an asset because I've worked with developers for VFX where like bridging the gap between the artists and the developers that don't really like to talk to each other, everyone needs a mediator, everyone. And so you're able to translate that as an actor, take the words from the page or from the notes that they're given. And like one of my closest friends I was working at a VFX job. She was a technical job and she was explaining how ShotGrid works, which is like a tracking software thing. And I was like, "So the shot grid demon, which is like what starts the tasks, pushes the shot bot off the ledge, which then notifies the artist that they have quests. And she's like, actually, yeah. And it was helpful. And I say all that to say, talking about, well, I've used it for this. I can use it for organization. What everyone here has talked about of I have a color coded schedule. I'm really good with taking notes and using that. One thing that helped me is I would look at breakdowns, take a few bullet points that speak to your skill sets, even if you haven't worked before, like in a full-time corporate job, or if you're not sure how your job experience could fit in, just take the bullet points off the list and use an acting experience. And then say, what was the core value from that job that I could apply that fits this in the job description? And then you, boom, you have a prep doc for when those questions come up of like, actually, referencing this point, I can make a hell of a spreadsheet and track a bunch of different things. So that is, yeah, I hope that makes sense. But, um, but yeah, and what was I gonna say? And Holly has a question for you, Kate. Do you still work at a school? How do you manage your VO business with your strict school schedule that doesn't allow downtime? I'm also an elementary teacher, so I'm interested in your process.
First of all, Holly, congrats on being an elementary teacher. It is such a noble pursuit and takes so much energy. So kudos to you. I hope that your kiddos are calm and chill as the holidays are approaching. Um, Now, to answer your question, I do not still work full time at a school. This was a transition that I made end of like 2021. I went into substitute teaching and then from there kind of created a lot of my own opportunities. But when I was working in a school and I needed to step out for some sort of audition or class or opportunity or meeting or something, and I did from time to time as I was starting to kind of burgeon into this scene. A lot of it was communication based. A lot of it was like kind of talking to my coworkers, talking to my administrators and letting them know that I had this other passion and this other desire. And they thankfully were really responding well to all of that. So when I had something come up, I was able to find ways to slip out. Or maybe my kids, for the 40 minutes I go and have this phone call. They're going to the science lab that day, and we just rearranged the schedule. So it kind of became one of my free periods that I could take some of that work on. And I don't know what the structure of your school is, so I don't know what the deal is for you. But for me, we had the free periods whenever the kids were at PE, or if the kids were at lunch and they had moderators watching them, or uh, going to the science lab, going to the library. And so taking advantage of those little free slots throughout the day was vital when I was especially, and in fairness, a lot of this work I was doing during distance learning. So I would be taking advantage of like them going to a specialist Zoom, and I would go build my booth for a little bit in the hall closet. But when we got back into campus, it was kind of the same thing, but more of just like I would go do research, I would go do emails. A lot of the prep for this career is building up your network, and so you might not be going out for a bunch of auditions, or you'll be doing your auditions at night, like after you're grading your papers, and you might not have sessions right away. But so taking advantage of the free moments that you have during the day to write those emails, research those classes, and kind of look into those things. And then I just wanted to add about the LinkedIn question, because I know all of us are seeking other opportunities. Don't be afraid to think about like what kind of opportunities can I build for myself, because that's a lot of how I've been able to stay afloat and survive. So LinkedIn, I also went through and applied a bunch of times. I don't think I kept track, and I was one of those people that I was like, this isn't working. So
It's
I was like,
sucking. It's horrible.
I was like, I have to figure something else out. So that's when I got involved with a community theater, and I told them, hey, I have an idea for a children's theater and we can fund it with grants and you will pay me this. And they were like, okay. And like, obviously it wasn't that simple, but kind of honing the skills that I had and using them to build my own paid opportunities, which happened with the children's theater with Dungeons and Dragons, and kind of all of the work that I do. And that is very useful in voiceover, because it kind of is a one-to-one comparison of being
Is
able
networking,
to.
and
Yeah.
that somebody was asking about networking too. It's like you never know who you're gonna meet, and I don't know where everyone's based who's watching this. We are all in Los Angeles. It's you throw a rock, you'll hit someone in entertainment. And don't throw rocks. But if I throw a soft marshmallow, you will hit you will find someone
Yes.
in entertainment. Because yeah, like how have you guys found like when working in something that you've met someone who's like, oh hey, this is like you're a great person for this job, or they've offered you something from that, from just from working with them out in the field.
I taught their children.
I gotta get
One
a
of my
child.
first jobs came from a dad that he was like, "Here, you want to come in and like provide some additional voices?" I was like, "Absolutely, yes, thank you." And obviously that was very lucky. But yeah, I think that
I
has
love it.
helped a lot.
Right. And I'm gonna go to a money question. We got a little bit of time left. I know some of us can
Do
stay
it.
after,
I know
so for
I
like
might
5
linger because I'm
yeah,
having fun.
this is really fun. I'm
I'm
so
having fun
happy.
too,
This is
but
the
I
best.
can't.
I know.
We are cheering for you tonight. I wish, oh my gosh, you need to send me photos and videos
I
from,
want to see your flower costume.
I will send you.
Yes.
please. But yeah,
And after we answer the money question, Mariah, there is like a common thread that I'm seeing about like balancing voiceover with like jobs that don't allow, like they're really strict and rigid that I do want to touch on. So let's
great.
the money thing, and I want to touch on this after.
I love it. So for taxes, basically people are asking how do you balance, keep track of income and such in doing taxes. I know for me, I love H&R Block. I have a great accountant that I use that is very helpful. That's more of like the more on the standard deduction line, but for acting income, you keep all your pay stubs that you get as an actor. I love accordion folders. I won't pull it out right now, but I have an accordion folder. I'll track all my actor expenses on that just so I have the physical copy. And big expense, like you can deduct, I mean, that's this, I'm not an accountant, so like I won't go into like you can deduct this, you can deduct that. You just write it off, Schitt's Creek. Just write it off. But like there's it's good to research about office space, like that could be your at-home booth, which is mine's right here, that's why I'm referencing the space, and your home desk, and keep a record of everything, commutes and different equipment pieces that you use. And it's great to run it by a professional because every year I have questions of is this how I do this? And it's there's a lot of resources online that have like this is specifically for actors. Like I know there's a tracker out there that's like track your actor income and commission per year for your agent or manager. So a lot of different tools. I found a lot of them on Instagram, and we
Mm.
also like provide those at a later if people have like the links handy. That's how I do it. How about you guys?
So I mentioned this to you guys yesterday, but 2024 has been Jonathan Ha's personal finance arc. And because I've never done taxes. I've never done taxes. Because
I
like
know. Oh,
yeah,
you're the
I
first
literally
one.
graduated last year. Um so I'm currently in the midst of figuring all of that out. And thankfully, my friend, uh, the lovely Kevin Andrew Rivera, referred me to his personal accountant. And the way that she handles things is she gives me this spreadsheet template with, yeah, like with the things that I can deduct and all of that. And then on my end, from around the second half of undergrad, I was already budgeting things with my own spreadsheet and keeping track of expenses because that was when I was starting to pay car payments and like
Mhm.
rent when I got back home. Uh, and keeping track of all of those things, categorizing them, making a pivot table on Google
Mhm.
Sheets is like so
Oh,
OP. It's
oh
amazing.
yeah.
Just like learn how to make a pivot table. It will change your freaking life.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, just recording everything, so that when you need to file your taxes when the time comes, that you have all of the information there. And then exactly like what Mariah says, keeping track of all of the acting income as well and the agency commissions. Hopefully your agency has that all figured out, and like they send you the pay stubs every single time you get paid. And if they don't, just ask for it. Because yeah, it's very important information. And then yes, I saw in the chat Robert Junion's Red Sites session on taxes and acting. I watched a little bit of that because I didn't finish it because it got to a point with like LLCs and stuff like that. And this is way beyond me at this point in time. But yes, it is great. And Maihan, thank you for putting the link over there, because yes, it's like 2 hours, but it is chock full of amazing information.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Thank you. And I hope it's funny because this is your first, I remember my first tax season. The
Mm-hmm.
guy was like, I was freaking out because I was like, oh God, I'm
Yeah.
gonna get audited 7 times in front of me. I don't know what's gonna happen. And he always he makes fun
Yeah.
of me every year because he goes, you are my most nervous client. And I'm like, I'm sorry. And so I hope you are less nervous. You got this. You're gonna be fine. Don't worry.
You got this. You got
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. And Ariane, I know you got to leave in a few minutes, so do you want to tackle the
Yeah,
question?
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try and answer every question, but I'm seeing a common thread in the chat of like things like avoiding burnout and like working a 9 to 5 that doesn't have flexibility and you get home and you're exhausted, or like things that are like rigid workplaces, motivation, things like that. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit because
Yeah.
I think especially when you're in a career where everybody's always posting all about what they're doing and they're constantly, it's like the grind, the grind, the grind. I think a lot of people forget that this is like a marathon and not a race.
Hmm.
And
Oh yeah.
so if you're working a job that is not flexible, or it's tough and it's really hard and you're burnt out, honestly, it's the littlest things you can do. Don't stress so much about like trying to take all these classes and trying to send in all these auditions. Like, it is okay to let yourself have a break and like say no to things. It's not going to be the end of your career. Like, it might take you some time, like but this is the thing. It's like it has taken me in the last 3 years that I've been working this professionally, I am just now starting to see the effects of the work that I put in my first year.
Yeah.
Like, it
Wow.
will
That's
take
a great, I
time.
love that.
Yeah, it will take time because when I was working 40 hours a week, oh my God, I was so tired all the time. And I feel very fortunate now that I'm in a position with my voiceover career that I can only work my day job 15 hours a week,
Hmm.
but it took time to get there. So, like, you will know
Hmm.
when it is like when you are ready to make that leap because eventually you will want to make
Hmm.
that leap, right? Like,
Yeah.
you don't want to be able to do voiceover assumedly as much as you can. I mean, maybe you want to balance both, I don't know. But like for me, I want to do it as much as I can.
Yeah.
And I would love to work it full time eventually. But it's literally like you will know when it is time because voiceover would literally say, we need you for like all of these sessions and your day job's going to be like way too much
Yeah.
and you're going to be able to like find that time. So for now, if you're
Yeah.
struggling with that, just it's baby steps. Just do the one audition if you can. Like, just take some classes, work out group with friends, build your community, build your network. Like, it's literally the little things. I promise you that it will build up. Do not stress out about not doing enough because I know, I mean, I can't speak for all of y'all, but for me, I it's like the imposter syndrome, never feeling
Oh,
like I'm doing enough,
I
even
had
when
to
I'm
speak.
out.
What's imposter syndrome?
What is
I've never heard of that.
I've never
What is
doubted
that?
myself ever.
Yeah, but then I look back and it's like when you get to look back and see how far you've come, that's when you know it's worth it. But you can't do that unless you keep going.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's
fantastic. And it's so real because it's great to remind everyone of that because it's a work in progress always. So like even if like you intellectually understand it, it's hard to put it in practice. Like we struggle with that all the time. That's why we can speak on stuff like this. So I really appreciate you touching on that because it's like and that brings me to I think we could wrap up about just in general. It's been absolutely lovely having you guys here tonight. And what does full-time voice actor mean to you? And what would it take for you to pursue only acting, like when the amount of bookings coming in and balancing that and knowing that this is our present, it doesn't mean that that's the rest of our future. and doing it. Yeah. Let's start with Jonathan.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Sorry.
So this is
I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, this is a question that I've been asking myself a lot lately because it is a still somewhat of a fantasy at this point because like yeah, I just got started. And I don't know, maybe something will some huge gig will like plop into my lap next year or something like that. But I don't know. For right now, I want to be conservative in my thinking and say that that's a little bit of a ways ahead.
Yeah.
But still, I think yeah, of course, like default answer is full time would mean being able to sustain myself financially.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just like when I feel like I have no choice but to let go of my other jobs,
Mhm.
because right now acting and everything, it's number one priority. It is
Mhm.
that is like undoubtedly so, and so yeah, like I said, when I have no choice but to go with the thing that I have always and already loved more, it's gonna be a scary decision, but at the end of the day, I know that it'll feel at least a bit like a no-brainer decision.
Yeah.
Um, and
It's a
yeah, like, yeah. And until then, I just gotta keep meeting cool people and putting out cool and interesting work. And so I know that that's somewhat in my control. So as long as I keep doing that, then yeah, I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, I love that. And Ariana, it's 7, so I know you gotta leave. I have one question for you. Same question for you.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give yourself when you started out? It's been lovely seeing you tonight, by the way.
Listen to.
Mm.
Just keep swimming.
This keeps swimming. I love
Mm.
that.
That is genuinely what I would say because amidst all the self-doubt and everything, it's like I just said before, I could never imagine even where I'm at right now, which sometimes I still feel like is not enough, but
Yep.
a year ago, I could not have dreamed of it. So I can't wait to see where I get next year and the year after that. But I'm never going to find that out if I stop and doubt myself and I don't keep trying just the little things, even on days that it's hard. And I know folks are talking about, like I said, I struggle with ADHD, anxiety, depression, like things like that. It's hard. I completely understand. It's love this career because some people say it won't love you back. It will love you back if you love it.
Mhm.
You know, like I love what I do so much and I couldn't imagine not doing it. So
Yeah.
that's why it's worth it. And the people are the best community on the planet. I have made my closest friends, people that I didn't even know 3 years ago, are now
Mhm.
my closest freaking friends
Isn't
because
that wild?
Yep.
just surround yourself with amazing people and you'll be just fine.
I love you. You're the
So
best.
I'll see y'all later. Thanks for having
Drive
me.
safe. Great
Bye.
Be
show.
safe, be
Good
safe.
luck at that
Take a
show.
lake.
Oh,
You
goodbye.
too,
You guys are
Adora.
in good hands.
She just reminded me of if anyone is a 21 Pilots fan, they have a song on their new album called Clancy. Don't laugh at me. It's called Clancy. It's called Oldies Station. It's a great motivator when you're having a bad day. It just goes push on through. So listen to it. It's great. Kate, on to you. Idea.
Yes. So just talking about like, what was the original question? Because I
I
feel
know
like
I
we
threw so
diverted
much
into a
out.
different topic.
What does full-time voice actor mean to you?
Oh, what does it
And like,
mean?
what would it
Like,
take for
what does
you
it
to
look like?
Yeah, what
Uh,
does that look like? What's that vision to you? And like, where do you see yourself only pursuing acting in the future?
Well, one of the best things I did at the start of my career was take a class with Jennifer Hale called Start It, and she talks a lot about like the various income streams that come through voice acting work. I think to be a full-time actor, I would like to have at least like two or three of those really solid. E-learning, commercials, audiobooks, dubbing, whether it's live action dubbing or if you do anime or if you're doing like narration for documentaries or doing I forget what it's called, the type of dubbing that's not synced but usually for like documentaries and stuff where they're like interviewing people.
Oh, I know
Specific
what you're
name.
talking about.
And
I
I
don't know
can't
what it's
remember it.
called, but
But
I know what you're
my
talking about.
point is there's so many different ways you can be a voice actor. It's not just the character stuff. It's not just the all the stuff that kind of looks a little more glitzy. A lot of my early income stuff in voiceover was doing uh audiobooks, like lots of
Yeah.
audiobooks, which
And that's a lot of time. It's like that's a marathon.
yeah, it takes a lot of time, but it was also something that you could do, like if I was late at night coming home from work, I could record a chapter. I can take the time to do that. And thankfully with audiobooks, you can kind of set your deadlines. So when you're in a rigid schedule, that's a really good stream to kind of try to swim up. But yeah, I think to be a full-time actor, I'd want to have some of those streams locked down. I think I'd want to have either like a convention presence or some sort of
Yeah.
ancillary thing, just to kind of keep the ball rolling. I see a lot of my colleagues that they have the streams locked down and then you just see them going to convention after convention after convention all year. And I think that's proven very lucrative. And even just like, I don't know,
I feel like loop
you're
groups.
also networking, like it all kind of ties together too, which is nice. What were you going to say, Mariah?
You just reminded me. I feel like loop groups and conventions are cousins.
Mm,
Like,
Loop groups,
yeah.
loop groups are the mafia of VO. So here's the thing. Loop groups are famously difficult to get in. And while they pay super well, and I know this because I worked in a loop group. Remember the dad that gave me a job on something? That was it. He had me loop on a show that he did. And I loved working in the loop group. It was really, really fun, but it is like 6 to 8 people and they work on a bunch of stuff all at once. And if you're like the newbie coming in, it's a little bit, so don't count on getting a loop group right out the gate.
hard.
I feel like there's a lot of people that might not ever do it. And the other thing about loop groups is that they're really demanding of your time. A loop group, so to clarify, loop groups are all the additional voices credits that you see in movies. Those are usually the people that worked in the loop group. So for example, in a live action film, extras might be in the background pretending like they're cheering at a sports game, but they can't because the microphones have to pick up your lead actors. So in post, all of the sound effects that would be made at a big hockey game are put in by the loop group. So it's a bunch of actors standing in a booth pretending they're at a hockey game, which is really fun.
Yep.
It's also called Walla. You'll hear people Walla. A lot of improv.
Yep.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, but it's all kind of, that all goes hand in hand. But yeah, it's I mean, if I could get a loop group going, yeah, sure, I'd be a full-time actor, no problem.
It's a steady, it's very steady and hard to get into because
it's very steady, but again, also super demanding of your time. I know people that are in loop groups that are afraid to leave town because they're afraid they might get called in the next day, and the loop group leaders don't look too kindly on that. So
person pulling up
because they expect you to be there. So and sometimes you might be put on, this is a 1800s Western piece, so you got to do your research on like the lingo of the time, and like you got to have the accent, like you have to have all of that locked in before you go in, and you might find that out like 6 hours before you go in. So loop groups very cool, but also something that it's a lot. Yeah.
And how long
we diverted from the original cause.
But it's all information, and I love it. I hope we can do another one of these soon because there's a lot.
Yes.
An hour is not enough.
So much.
It's not enough. And thank you all for staying and joining us on this ride. This has been a blast. How late can you guys stay real quick?
I will
I think I'll cap at
stay
7:15.
for as long as you guys want me.
Okay. I think
really
7:15 is a good, if you guys are okay with that. And then this will be available if you have to leave now. This is being recorded and it'll be posted for people who got tickets on YouTube, so you can always watch it back and play back later. So it will be there for you.
Yay.
We'll head off in a few minutes, but I want to ask a question, the same question I asked Ariana. If you could give yourself advice for when you first started, what would you tell yourself? What would you tell yourself?
Thank you.
Oh,
Kate, please
What?
take it
No,
away, Kate.
don't let me do it. I can't send to everybody. So could you share that, Maihan, that
Yes.
little message? Thank you so much. Sorry, I missed the question. I was typing frantically in the
it's
chat.
okay. No, same multitasking. It's always, I feel like after
ADHD brain coming in. What
and
was the
after
question?
COVID, it's gotten worse. I feel like I'm like, huh? If you could give yourself a piece of advice when you first started this trek of taking on all these jobs, what would you tell yourself?
Um, Gosh, I've not to be redundant, but yeah, first of all, don't give up. And it's okay that it goes slowly because it will. It is just the nature of the business. Uh, I would say I wish I had given myself even like 20 minutes of time a day to really focus in on VO, just 20 minutes. And that would be something, either to make a list or to email somebody or to research something. Even in Jennifer Hill's Start It class, she would say, like, read out loud for 5 minutes a day. And you
Yeah.
wouldn't believe how much that helps. If you
Oh
can't
yeah.
to take a class, if
Uh-huh.
you can't afford, if you're having a hard time finding a network to do a workout group with or something like that, like read out loud to yourself or pretend that you're reading to a room full of kids. How would you read it to make it exciting for them? That is such valuable practice, and just getting used to the sound of your own voice.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
just section off, even if it's 10 minutes, it's okay, even if it's 5.
Yeah. Even
Yeah.
if it's not, and I totally agree. And it's free form. So you're not like, it's not like, oh man, I spent so much money on this. I have to perform and do well. Like, it's your free time. And I think finding, and that's a big theme of me for next year of like doing, keeping the core of like my work next year into what's fun and playfulness and bringing it back to that. And reading is very helpful for that. Um, and Jonathan, that brings me to you. What advice would you give yourself when you started?
Mm, I guess because I only started
I
years
know.
ago. Yeah. So I mean, in my opinion, I'm still getting started. But um,
Let's get it
let me
started.
let me reframe the question to to give you things that I did that I believe really worked.
I love it.
Um,
Go for it.
so first thing that kind of ties in with all of the like energy management and time management. So as someone who is in their early 20s, maybe it's because of my age that I'm very like go go go, like everything needs to happen right now. Um, but at the same time, I am and have always been a very big introvert, very introverted, and I many times like nothing else more than to just be a potato at home and do nothing. Um, and so, yeah, with those two things happening at the same time, yes, it is very important to be go, go, go and very proactive with this career and this industry. But at the same time, it's very important to slow down
Mhm.
and to also stop completely from time to time. Because it's only when you get to factory reset your brain that it like that you're compelled to keep going and that you remind yourself why you love this so much. um and then I guess going along with the go 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 theme, uh yeah, and you don't have to spend, pay a mortgage to like take a class or do all these things that a lot of times a lot of money. There's a lot of free resources out there. And I think what's more important is your mindset on like what can I do that will advance my quote unquote career in some way. It doesn't have to be the way because there is no the way. It's just something that you can do right now for cheap or for little to no money, that will advance your career in some way. Because exactly like what we were talking about before, this is a marathon and not a race. You have to think about the things that you do now that will benefit you 1 to 5, 10 plus years in the future. You have the rest of your life to work on this. This is your life project, not like a 2024 project. This is going to be going on for literal decades if you want it to. So take it slow. You have time, and yeah,
I
yeah.
love it. I agree with all of that, you guys. Those are great takeaways. I think um, the piece of advice I would give, I think the testament to my career so far, I would say, is the moment of Spirited Away, where Chihiro's like with you, Baba, and she's like, "Give me a job, please!" Like in the room, where the amount people are a lot more willing, and I'll explain why people are a lot
Mhm.
more willing to. There's so much community I found in voiceover, a lot more than people would make you believe. Like I know at theater school, it's very like cutthroat when I was in it, and it created like the idea of what it is. But there's so much empowerment to be found in just asking and seeing where
Mm,
things can take you, seeing where like, hey, like somebody asked earlier of like, how do if even if it's a creative job and they're flexible, like, are they going to be weirded out that I'm an actor? It's all about positioning it, of making yourself in a marketable in a positive way. Like, how would you describe your best friend of 20 years? How would you, like, when you talk about your favorite show, your favorite this, how would you describe that? It's always with joy and leading with compassion. And it helps to not feel like everyone's out to get you and to just ask, like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I like reached out to this casting office I really love and got to learn their back end and got to know them, and you make a lot of friends that way. And even if I learned all my jobs, I learned on the job. I went to VFX. I didn't know VFX. I looked up everything from like animation. I looked up YouTube videos, a lot of free resources there if you're curious about how a job works or tracking software. And you show that you're open to learn. Our jobs as actors is learning. And so I think that's applicable to any job. So if you're scared of asking, just ask. The worst you can get back is no. And I mean, that's your career as an actor anyway. It's a lot of no's with some amazing yeses in between. So it's all intertwined and push on through, I say.
mm.
So yeah,
Can I add something real quick to that?
go ahead, please do.
Yeah. So, that note, get comfortable with uh like actually going out of your way to find whatever answers that you're looking for. Because I feel like right now, a lot of days, there's brain rot, iPad kids swarming, surrounding us all over the place. And everyone just wants the answers to be fed to them and given to them and spoon fed. But it's a very important thing to exercise the proactiveness muscle and to ask for things or to go out of your way and search for people to ask to answer your question.
Mhm.
Because thankfully, we are in an industry where a lot of people are very willing to listen and answer your questions. And so you know, rather than spiraling because you think that you're not getting all the answers that you want or need, um, find them or create answers of your own. Because yeah, this this again goes to this is a marathon, not a race. You have to make those little steps yourself, put your own foot in front of the other rather than waiting to be spoon fed, you know.
Yeah. And that's an excellent point. And you're going to get different answers from everyone, and it's all based on their
Yes.
experience.
Yes.
So it's everything with a grain of salt and it requires a lot of work that Jonathan just said of figuring out what works best for you, because you don't have to
Yes.
be this exact replica of who you find of stuff. Like everything informs your own experience. So I think that is fantastic. And one thing Kate mentioned in the chat, send and forget becomes vital, 100%.
Yes.
A lot of
Mhm.
pushing on through with like once you complete something, on to the next and experience life. I hope you all have a
Yes.
really fulfilling life outside of acting. That's is and job stuff, that is very important. So whatever, and that's why the jobs have helped. It's outside of it. So it informs experience. Yeah.
Hey, I agree with everything that you are putting in the chat.
I mean, you're
I'm
so,
gonna interrupt.
I just keep going, no, I just keep going, yes. I just am reading it like, yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh.
For the sake of the recording, just saying that there was a question in the chat about ADHD and being sensitive about rejection. So learning to send and forget, be thankful for the time that you get with your character and copy, because you get to be that character, even if it's for 20 minutes. That's you, and you get to have fun with it, and you get to enjoy yourself. So like, I don't know, that makes the auditioning kind of more exciting. Even if it doesn't pan out to be an actual job, you still got to go for it, which is extremely cool. And then keeping it fun, because Richard Horvitz says we're all kids on a playground. And that's some of the best advice I've ever gotten in this industry, is like, when you were 6 playing Batman on the playground, you didn't come off the playground at the end of the day and go, my Batman was just not good today. It wasn't I just couldn't do the Batman right. So yeah, just remember that what we do is fun, and it should be fun, and even if
that,
we're
yes.
mad at, it's okay.
That's such a good I love that analogy you uses, but it's so true. And it's all a process. So one day you're gonna get it and like be like, I understand the secret to everything. It's much what I'm like, Jonathan, when I drink fills. Uh, but one day you're gonna get it, and the next day, pretend, and this happens to me a lot. You can be like, I suck at every. I'm that kid in the park. I didn't do Batman good today. Like I don't understand anything, and
Like
that's okay. And then Kate breaks into my house and slaps me. But
if you need me to break into your house, let me know.
I will. Oh, 100%. Yeah, make it as threatening as possible.
Got it.
um, but it's just to say, that's okay if the ebbs and flows. The career ebbs and flows. Your emotions will ebb and flow, and that's somebody with mental health I want to touch on real quickly before we wrap up. It's great to resource yourself with one, a therapist that understands you and that works with your methods of communication, your love languages, your what works for you, finding someone who makes you feel understood. I think a big part of being an actor is there's a lot of being misunderstood that comes with it, which is very hard. And working to find friends, even that are actors and are not actors, that understand you as a human being, and it's hard to check in with them sometimes, of like with somebody was asking about schedules and things, with like keeping up with all of that. You always got to check in with yourself, your body, your mind, because that's your instrument. And finding the best way to resource yourself, whether it's a dance party in your room with your silent disco by yourself, or drinking water, finding foods that are nurturing to your voice and just your body in general. Sleep, I'm always working on sleep. But again, it's a process. So it's all trial and error, and checking in with your friends, and yeah, yeah. Anyone have anything to add to that before we log off for the night? Thank you for staying over, by the way. I really appreciate it. And
No problem.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, just like real quick, because Kate was addressing those points for people who have ADHD. I frankly do not have the ADHD, and yet I agree with all of those points.
Hmm.
Those are still just as relevant and just as important. Just want to say, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Because we're all human. It's even if it's ascribed to something, we're all in the same boat, even if it doesn't feel like it sometimes. And even if you're seeing stuff on social media where you're playing the comparison game a lot, just know that there is somebody that understands, and reach out.
Mhm.
And yeah, I know I can go to these guys when I need that help. So
And
I
also, oh,
go ahead. You're
How
fine. Okay,
dare you,
last
Kate?
thing,
come to me
and
to
then we'll
interrupt you.
close. No,
I
always
was just gonna
go.
say, with regards to the comparison game too, try to remember what people put on their socials is the pinnacle of what they might be doing in any given time. So like, you're seeing the very, very tip of the iceberg and not everything else that came underneath it. So just know that like, we're all human, we're all trying our best. If you see like so and so is announcing thing after thing, like just try to be happy for them, because you don't know like what struggle they went through to get to that point too.
Yeah.
And I think all we can do is support and love and be happy for each other. That's one of the best parts about being a voice actor, is this community really really does its best to lift each other up. All ships rise together, you know? So
It's about the same. And that will make you feel so much better as in your own work, knowing you're supported by people that you can trust, but also that inspire you as well. You should never feel like you're the only person in your silo. You should have people around you with all different skill sets where you're like, I love that they do this. It's different than what I do. It makes you stronger. So,
Mhm.
100% agree. 100% agree. Well, I hope we could do another one of these. There's so much to talk about. I hope
This is
everyone.
dope.
We
I
needed like
loved it.
3 hours.
This is
Yeah.
a 3-hour master class.
I feel like I need one of those like red string boards, you know?
Yeah.
You know, the
That
Carol,
always
who's
funny
Charlie
picture.
Day in the back. Carol. But it's been such a blast being here tonight with all of you, and thank you so much for your questions. They're excellent. Hope we can be back to talk to you about this. Thank you for all your donations to the Game Audio Diversity Alliance. It goes to a great cause, and we really appreciate it. Thank you, Maihan, for moderating tonight. And yeah.
Yes. And again, feel free to reach out.
Yes,
Mhm.
please do. Awesome.
All right.
Have a great
All
night.
right. Have a great night, everybody.
Coming.